Something about the state of professional golf right now simply does not feel normal. If you have been following this sport closely, you have watched LIV Golf cause chaos before. You have seen the bitter arguments, the antitrust lawsuits, the signed contracts worth hundreds of millions, and the seemingly endless billions flowing from Saudi Arabia. But what is happening right now feels completely different. It is no longer just another headline in a long-running saga. It is starting to feel like we are actually watching the entire structure come apart in real time. What makes this moment so significant is that two separate developments over the last few weeks have suddenly connected in a way nobody truly saw coming. One story is about the money behind LIV Golf finally running out, or more precisely, the people controlling that money deciding they have seen enough. The other is about Rory McIlroy, the one player who has been the loudest and most consistent voice against LIV since day one, finally breaking his silence in a way that stopped the entire golf world cold. The remarkable part is that these two things happening at the exact same time is not a coincidence. It is a collision. For 3 years, LIV had the Saudi billions as an impenetrable shield. Every criticism bounced off, and every financial concern got buried under another cash injection. But now that shield has been removed, and suddenly everything Rory has been saying since 2022 is landing with a completely different weight and resonance. If you are a real golf fan, you can already sense that this moment is bigger than one press conference or one funding announcement. This feels like a genuine turning point for the entire sport, the kind of moment people will look back on and identify as the point when everything shifted permanently. Here is something that still feels almost impossible to say out loud. The Saudi Public Investment Fund, one of the wealthiest sovereign wealth funds on the entire planet, looked at LIV Golf and decided it was too expensive to keep running. Let that sink in for a moment. We are not talking about a struggling startup running out of runway. We are talking about a fund backed by the Saudi Crown Prince himself, walking away from a project they personally built from nothing. The numbers involved here are genuinely staggering. Since LIV launched in 2022, the Saudi PIF pumped over $5.3 billion into the league. At its peak, LIV was burning through roughly $100 million every single month just to keep the lights on. Despite all of that spending, despite the guaranteed contracts, the television deals with Fox and TNT Sports, the new partnerships with Rolex, HSBC, and Salesforce, the returns simply never matched the investment. LIV's non-U.S. operations alone reported losses of nearly $600 million in 2024. The cracks started showing before the official announcement even came. Greg Norman, the man who built LIV from the ground up, was already gone by December 2025. New CEO Scott O'Neill came in, rebranded the messaging, and switched to 72-hole events to finally earn world ranking points. But none of it was enough to change the fundamental reality. Then LIV quietly canceled its New Orleans tournament scheduled for June. That was not a scheduling conflict. It was the first domino falling publicly. When the PIF officially confirmed they were pulling funding after the 2026 season, it ended weeks of speculation that had been building across every major financial outlet, from the Wall Street Journal to the Financial Times. The statement from the PIF was clinical and cold, stating the investment was no longer consistent with their current strategy. No fanfare, no tribute, just a door closing quietly on the most expensive experiment in sports history. Nobody expected the LIV questions to come at the Truist Championship. Rory McIlroy had just shot a 4 under 67 at Quail Hollow, climbing into contention at a course where he has been dominant for years. The post-round press conference should have been about birdies, ball striking, and weekend strategy. But the moment he sat down, the entire conversation shifted because the golf media had been waiting for this moment. They had been waiting for Rory to say something, and he did not disappoint. What made his response so fascinating was what he chose not to say. McIlroy did not gloat. He did not stand up and deliver the victory speech that 3 years of being the loudest anti-LIV voice in the sport might have earned him. Instead, he was measured, deliberate, and somehow even more devastating because of that restraint. He said he did not need to rehash his views on LIV because everyone already knew them. Then, almost casually, he delivered the line that immediately went everywhere. When one of the wealthiest sovereign wealth funds in the world decides that a project is too expensive for them, He said, "That sort of says something." And he said it with a laugh, not a cruel laugh, just the laugh of someone who has been proven right and is trying very hard not to make too big a deal about it. But then came the part that genuinely stunned people, because McIlroy did not just twist the knife about the funding collapse. He issued a direct challenge to every LIV player considering their future. He stated that if you want to be the most competitive golfer you can be, the PGA Tour is the place to be. And then he added that if you do not want to play here, that says something about you. That is not a diplomatic statement. That is a challenge wrapped inside a compliment wrapped inside a warning. And every LIV player heard it exactly the way it was intended. But the real story is not just what Rory said. It is about the players, who now have to figure out what comes next. Here is the part that nobody in golf has a clean answer for yet. Even with LIV's funding gone and the Saudi PIF officially walking away, the situation does not resolve itself neatly. There's no automatic reunion, no handshake moment where everyone comes back together and the sport simply moves forward. What is actually coming is messier, slower, and far more revealing about the true character of everyone involved. PGA Tour CEO Brian Rolap has been refreshingly honest about this. He does not currently have a plan for mass reintegration of LIV players. That is not just a logistical problem. It is a deeply political one. The PGA Tour membership has real scars from the fracture that happened when those players left. Some of them left loudly, and some burned bridges publicly. The players who stayed, who ground through the uncertainty and kept competing every week without guaranteed money, have not forgotten that. Rolap has to balance what is good for the business against what is fair to the people who never left. LIV itself still has 7 events remaining on its 2026 schedule running through the end of August. Life goes on in the short term, players still tee it up, and leaderboards still happen, but everyone inside that ecosystem is now playing out the string while quietly planning for a future that looks nothing like what they signed up for when they took those guaranteed contracts. What makes this moment so significant beyond just one tour's financial troubles is what it reveals about ambition and consequences, about loyalty and leverage, about what professional golf actually values when the money finally stops talking. Players like McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Scottie Scheffler, and the entire generation that stayed on the PGA Tour kept competing in the toughest environment in the sport every single week. Now the world is watching to see whether the players who left can find their way back, and whether the sport is actually big enough to let them. Honestly, depending on how the next few months unfold, this could either become the most important reunification story professional golf has ever told, or the most bitter, complicated ending to a multi-billion-dollar rivalry that never fully delivered on its promise. Either way, everybody in golf is watching now. The Saudis did not lose in the traditional sense. They simply pivoted, as billionaires always do. They are still at the table, just occupying different seats. But the shield that protected the rebels from consequence has been removed, and the players who took the money are now exposed to the cold reality of their decisions. Some will navigate the path back through humility and patience, accepting the penalties and earning their place again. Others will find that the bridges they burned cannot be reconstructed. The door is not closed, but it is not wide open either, and the next few months will determine the shape of professional golf for a generation. Let me know in the comments what you think. Should the PGA Tour welcome LIV players back with open arms? Or should there be meaningful consequences for the ones who left loudly and sued the tour? And if you enjoy this kind of honest golf conversation, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We cover the stories that actually matter in professional golf every single week, and I will see you in the next one.